All right, hello everybody. Welcome to the world's greatest Bronze Age comic book podcast, Flea Market Fantasy. I'm your co-host, Mike L, and as always, I'm joined by
Michael Dell of the LCS Hockey Radio Show, and I almost forgot my name.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is there like an extra long delay here, a satellite delay? What's going on?
I was pausing for effect.
Nice. Well, this week is a special one because once again, we're gonna review a comic that I collected every single issue of before reading any of them. But I'll let you introduce it because it's your pick.
Yeah, we're going back to Marvel. This is a title I've wanted to do for a couple of years now, and I always kept putting it off. So I'm like, let's just get it out of the way. We're going to go West Coast Avengers, issue 18 from 1986.
Yeah.
The golden year, 1986.
Can I just say that to prepare for this, I attempted to read the miniseries that introduced the West Coast Avengers.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, Michael, because that's the first thing in my notes here. West Coast Avengers first appeared in a 4-issue limited series in 1984. And this series was created by Roger Stern and Bob Hall. I've never read that 4-issue limited series. So did you read that? I usually like Roger Stern. Usually pretty good.
I did read it, but it was terrible.
Yikes.
Yeah.
All right.
I could not, like, I read one. No, you know what? I didn't even finish the first issue. I just, the way I read comics now, like from the Bronze Age, is I know by like page 1 or maybe page 2 if I'm gonna like it, and by page 2, if I'm not into it, I just give up. You know. Anyway, and I gave up.
Well, that's a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never read those 4 issues there. Now, the regular series that we are doing here today started in October of 1985, and it ran until January of 1994, and that lasted 102 issues. So, are you saying you owned all 102 issues of West Coast Avengers?
So what it was, okay, first of all, when I was a kid, I started buying it when John Byrne came on with number, I think, 42 or 43.
Shoot, I have that written down here somewhere.
Okay.
John Byrne took over, and he wrote and drew the book from issue 42, you are correct, until issue 57.
Right, I bought all those. I dropped it as soon as he left. Then, years later, I went through my Steve Englehart phase, right?
Yeah.
And I collected every single issue of this without reading it. And to be fair, I read it, and I did, like 10 years ago I read it, and I did enjoy it.
Really?
But, yeah, I did enjoy it then. Yeah. But then, yeah. And then I was going to reread it one more time before I sold it. But then I thought better if I just sold it. And now I'm glad that I did. But I'll save my review for later.
Yeah, the creators here today that we will be, this issue 18, written by Steve Englehart. And he wrote the first 29 issues. Then he wrote issues 31 to 37. And then issue 39. And he also did the first 3 annuals. That's from 1985 to 88. And the artist is Al Milgrom. And he drew the first 37 issues, skipped one, came back for issues 39 and 40. He also did annuals 2 and 3. He wrote issue 30. So one of those Steve Englehart issues that Steve missed, Al Milgrom wrote and drew it. How about that? Yeah. No, I think we've established here in the past that, Al Milgrom, better editor than...
He's kind of notoriously known as a bad artist, and I don't hate his art.
Yeah, I think here in this book he's not too bad. The inker's Joe Sinnott.
Yes, who is Jack Kirby's Fantastic Four inker, and he's one of the best inkers in the industry, no doubt.
Yeah, and I think you can tell here that he saves a lot of this. And, like, there are some images, I can point them out as we go through, where it looks, oh, yeah, Kirby drew that, because it's the way Sinnott inked it. Like the faces, like the close-up face. So it's like, oh, that's something. So they're the creators here. Englehart, we've talked about many times on the show as well. You used to collect all the Steve Englehart. Why'd you start doing that?
Remember, because I read that one issue of Fantastic Four that we reviewed. Remember?
That was a terrible.
It was terrible, but somehow I fell under his spell, and I became obsessed with him. I bought nearly every single comic he ever wrote. Like, do you know how insane that is to have boxes? And boxes
I know how insane that is.
Of Steve Englehart comics. I'm talking like we're including stuff like Coyote and like Nightman from what was the company? Malibu Comics. They made a
Oh,
TV
yeah,
show of
Malibu.
Nightman, so I thought it's got to be good. And then I finally read it, and it was garbage, and I sold it.
Yeah, Malibu Comics. Like, I remember that was a thing there when I was a kid. But when did they come in? Like a 90 or so, or is it too late?
Early '90s. Yeah, right after Image, pretty much.
All right, so we can't do it here.
Nope,
Oh, well.
unfortunately.
All right, so getting back to the West Coast Avengers there. The title of the book changed to Avengers West Coast with issue 47.
That's right, I remember that, yeah.
Which do you like better? West Coast Avengers, Avengers West Coast?
I mean, West Coast Avengers rolls off the tongue better, but Avengers West Coast fits in more with, like, Avengers, right?
Yeah, I know that's a tough call. I think I might go Avengers West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, the original team members, can you name... Well, they're the ones in this book, actually.
Oh, really?
I was going to say, can you... Well, there's one little caveat to that. But the original team members were Hawkeye, Mockingbird, Wonder Man, Tigra, and Iron Man. But that Iron Man was James Tuffy Rhodes.
Ah, yes, that's right.
Now, Iron Man Tony Stark joined the team with issue 1 of the regular series. So the Iron Man we get today is Tony Stark.
Right.
And you don't think that James Tuffy Rhodes, it's not our buddy Tuffy, is it? Like, we have a buddy named Tuffy.
Could be. I mean, you never know, right?
Yeah, never put 2 and 2 together there. Also, Hank Pym and Moon Knight joined the team in issues 21. So how about Moon Knight there, getting in on the action?
You know what's funny? I didn't even notice until very recently that Moon Knight had 2 costumes. And when he joins the team here, he has his second costume. Did you notice that?
Yeah, like they're just all white.
Yeah, he has like gold, like a gold belt and some other gold. Anyway.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, I did notice a little slight difference there.
Mm-hmm.
He's not in this book, but I did read ahead a little bit.
Ooh.
Well, I flipped ahead.
Yeah, you flipped ahead.
Because we'll talk about it in a minute. Wasp joined the team in issue 32. Vision and Scarlet Witch joined in issue 37. U.S. Agent joined in issue 44.
I remember
US
that.
Agent.
Yeah.
By the way, that Iron Man Tony Stark, he got the boot. They kicked his sorry ass out of West Coast Avengers because of what he did in the Armor Wars.
Oh, yes.
What did he do? I never read the Armor Wars.
The Armor Wars is actually really good. You should read it. But the premise was he found out a bunch of companies were stealing his technology. And and also and I think selling them to supervillains like the Crimson Dynamo and Titanium Man. It was a really cool story. And so he went after them all. And I think they kicked him out. I don't think he killed anybody. I'm not sure why they kicked him out. Maybe he was just too violent. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because he was a filthy drunk for years, and they kept him in.
Right. Yeah. Good point.
So anyway, as you mentioned, John Byrne took over and wrote Andrew issues 42 to 57, and he had some major storylines.
Yes.
Remember some of the big?
Well, I remember he brought back the Vision, and he's the one that made the Vision into I think that's where he got separated from Wonder Man's personality, right?
Yeah, it was called, I think the storyline was Vision Quest, and basically Vision was disassembled and reborn as a bone-white, emotionless synthezoid.
Right.
Synthezoid.
Which, that version of Vision was featured in WandaVision towards the end.
Yeah, right, the final episode, right? He popped up in it. Also, he had the storyline where Scarlet Witch found out her kids were fake.
Right. Just
and
in her imagination. Yeah.
Caused her to go insane.
Mm-hmm.
So that really planted the seeds then for years later, the House of M and all that other stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah. And then he also introduced the Great Lake Avengers.
Oh, yes, I forgot about them.
A lot of people may not realize that there is a Great Lake Avengers.
Great Lakes,
I've never read anything with them. Can you name the Great Lake Avengers, Michael?
It's Great Lakes Avengers, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, Great Lakes, not Great Lakes. Singular.
Okay, this is going from memory here. I'm not cheating. I'm not on Google. So you have Mr. I, a.k.a. Mr. Immortal, right?
Yeah, do you want to tell the kids what his power is?
I think it's just that he can't die, right?
That's right, he can't die.
Right.
So, it can look like he's dead. He'll be, it looks like he's in a coma or he's dead, but he'll eventually pop back up. He's all right.
Right. And
what if he were to explode, though? What if he ate a bomb and exploded or something? Would he still?
I think he would just pop back into life, as far as I know.
All right.
And he's got a cool costume. It's red, blue, and white or something, right? It's got the thick Kirby lines. Yeah, it's really cool. Then there's, Then there's a guy that stretches it, Flatman.
Flatman, yeah, he's two-dimensional.
Right, right. Yeah. Okay, and then is there a woman called Big Bertha?
There is a woman called Big Bertha. She's a very large woman.
Right.
Like and fat.
We'll say fat. 2 more to go. There's a flying, almost like is it like a pteranodon girl?
Or kind of like a pterodactyl girl.
Yeah. What's her name though?
Dinosaur. Which is ridiculous. Because Dinah, D-I-N-A-H, Soar, S-O-A-R, soar like fly. But of course, Dinah Shore was an old actress.
Right.
So Dinosaur, and also play on dinosaur, the large reptiles.
Right.
Or whatever. That's ridiculous.
It is.
Dinosaur. We got one more left.
Ooh. This is going from memory, so I don't think I remember, honestly.
That's pretty good, 4 out of 5. I wouldn't be able to name any of them until I read about them yesterday. So,
okay, what's the last one?
Doorman.
Oh, he was all black, right?
Yeah, he kind of looked like Black Spider-Man, black costume Spider-Man.
Right.
He had like white eyes and all black. And he could like basically get you into any building you wanted. Like he could, like a little teleportation door into any.
That's pretty building. Cool. That's a cool power.
Yeah, something weird.
Now,
so were they any good? Like, have you read Great Lakes Avengers stuff?
Here's the thing, I don't think John Byrne's particularly funny, but I did like this team, and they actually brought them back many times over the years, and they're always like, funny. So I do like the characters.
I think the storyline was something that Hawkeye noticed that some funding from the Avengers is being funneled somewhere else. And he and Mockingbird went to investigate, and they found the Great Lakes Avengers. It was like a secret program or something.
No, but I thought that Hawkeye got kicked out when U.S. Agent joined, and then Hawkeye became the leader of the Great Lakes Avengers, didn't he?
Well, from what I read, Hawkeye left because U.S. Agent came in. Like the government put him into as like an oversight to watch over for Hawkeye, and Hawkeye said, "I'm out of here. Screw this."
Right.
And then, but I think when he was out of the team, he and Mockingbird, because they were both out at that time, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
And they were on the outs. We'll get into that in a minute when we get into this book.
Right.
But yeah, then they discovered the Great Lakes Avengers. So then Hawkeye became their leader then?
Yes, that's as far as I remember it, yeah.
Wow, that's wild stuff. All right, so in this book, this is issue 18, and this is part of a ongoing storyline that I think went to like issue 23 or so, and it started in like issue 16 or something. Lost in Time, I think is what it's called, right? The Lost in Time storyline.
Right.
So here in this issue, our pals, the West Coast Avengers, they're back in the Old West.
Yes. I flipped to the last issue and they explained how they got there. Well, I don't remember what it was now.
They touch on it here in this book.
Okay,
apparently there's an evil guy named Dominus.
Yeah.
And he's also wearing the costume of Lucifer. Do you remember that old guy Lucifer?
Yes.
So I don't understand what's going on. But he had an old Doctor Doom time machine, and he somehow used it to send these West Coast Avengers back in time.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
So, yeah. Well, we want to start with this cover?
Yeah, let's start with this cover.
All right. So we got the logo here, and we should point out that when they changed the title to Avengers West Coast, they changed the logo to be the standard classic Avengers logo with West Coast below it. But this was a unique logo. It just says the West Coast Avengers in this weird... You know, it's funny because now that I look at it, it's almost like video game font, eh? It's very blocky.
It is blocky, and it's tilted going up left to right. And the word "the" is like bigger than all the other words.
I know. It's really dumb. You're right. I just noticed that. Yeah.
So the spacing on the title is a little weird.
Yeah.
A little weird.
The West Coast Avengers. It is the Marvel 25th anniversary. We've got the 5 faces at the top left. And then we see Trapped in the Old West. It's a showdown. And Wonder Man is missing from this cover, but otherwise we have Iron Man, right. Hawkeye, Mockingbird, Tigra, is it Tigra or Tigra? Did we talk about this? Tigra. And then we also have 3 Western heroes. We have Knight Rider, Two Gun Kid, and is it Rawhide Kid?
Rawhide Kid.
Yeah. And they're facing off Oh, sorry, I didn't read the bottom. It's a showdown up against the wildest outlaws of the 1870s. And we see all these supervillains whose names I don't remember, but we'll be introduced to them later on.
Yeah, I can remember some of them, but yeah, we'll just wait. One is just called Fat Man.
Right.
And he's got a boomerang.
Yeah.
And well, let's describe him. And there's a guy like in a metal, almost like a Doctor Doom kind of outfit.
Totally.
But he's called Metal Mask, right? Metal Mask, I think. Then there's a reptilian lizard kind of guy. I forget what his name is. He's in like a green costume. Is it like a Rattler or something like that?
I can't remember. And then there's like a guy in a huge, what's that called? Like a stovepipe
hat.
Yeah.
And he's like the master of magnetism or something, and he just has a big magnet that he carries around.
Right.
Well, I can't remember his name. Then there's a cowboy who's a real quick draw. I think he's named Hurricane.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a flying monkey or something.
Sort of. Yeah. He's like purple. He's like a hawk guy, but he's purple.
And he's even carrying a gun.
Mm-hmm. Weird.
These Old West guys always carrying guns. We should also mention the Iron Man in this is it is Tony Stark, but it's silver and red Iron Man.
Yes. This is, affectionately, this is called the Transformers armor or the GoBot armor. Yes.
Yeah. How do you feel about silver and red Iron Man? Because he also has like the triangular chest.
Yeah. When I was getting into Iron Man, this is right around the time that he got it, so I'm used to it. But really, it's not. I prefer his red and gold.
Yeah, red and gold.
It's gotta be.
Yeah. All right, so this cover, drawn by Milgrom, the background is just all like pale yellow or tan.
Off-white,
however you want to say it. And we got the Avengers at the top, and they're like walking not even towards the camera, but just towards the bottom of the cover. And then at the bottom of the cover, we have all those Old West guys, but we just see them from behind. And from up above, and it's a weird cover.
It's not a good cover.
No, it's not.
The composition is like just so poor,
Yes, it's not good.
No.
It's interesting. You got all these villains and the heroes coming together to have like a showdown here, but I don't know. Why not show them like in a big fight scene?
Well, also, even just for what they're doing, it's so clear he doesn't know where to put the figures. Like, look at the purple hawk guy in the bottom left. It looks like his arm is resting on the cowboy's head. You see that?
Yeah.
It's just so badly positioned.
Yeah, it could have been better.
Yep.
What can you do? All right. So then we open up the book. Stan Lee presents the West Coast Avengers, Lost in Space-Time, Part 2. Time was ...
Yeah. And we see a shot of the West Coast Avengers falling through time, it's like a vortex of time kind of thing. And then we see.
Now that you mention it, though, Michael, you did say Wonder Man wasn't on the cover. Why not?
Yeah, I have no idea. It is weird.
Because we see him here spiraling through time, and I'm just like, wait, why wasn't he on the cover?
Makes no sense. We should also point out he's wearing the worst costume in superhero history here.
It's like all green leotard with like red stripes, red boots, red gloves, and like a yellow rocket jetpack on his back.
Yikes! Yep.
I hate Wonder Man.
Me too.
I don't know how you feel about it.
No, he's like one of the worst characters. I don't know what it is about him. I just don't like him.
Yeah, I don't like him at all. I don't know. I was outraged the other. I think you told me this on here that he in the Marvel universe he's considered to have unearthly strength. Like he's as strong as like the Hulk and everything. I'm like, what?
Not quite that strong, but like when they listed the different strengths back in like 83 or something, he was like number 3 or 4. It was insane.
Yeah. Well, Michael, I've mentioned this before, but remember that Dungeons and Dragons game but it was like Marvel,
Sure,
it had
I
all the
got
Marvel
that,
characters. Yeah, I used to have it when I was a kid. I loved it. I just played it by myself because I didn't have friends. But what I used to do is I would just read up all about the characters, and I loved it. And here the other day, like just maybe last month or so, I found PDF files of those books online.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so I went back and I looked at all those ratings for the people. And maybe the next time you're on the LCS show, me, you, and Jank will do this. We'll go through or something. But
yes,
they did have Wonder Man at 100 unearthly, same level at Hulk, and I'm like, well, that is ridiculous.
Yeah, that is ridiculous. You know he's dead now, eh? Like, and they actually kept him dead, I think.
He'll be back.
Yeah, probably.
He died before and came back, so yeah, he'll be back.
True. So anyway, so then we cut over to another scene that's going on in the present, and we see.
Yeah, this is disturbing.
I know. So we see Henry Pym, sitting down, holding a gun to his temple while he's just having it pulled away, and then Firebird, a character named Firebird, is holding his arm. And she's like, "Stop! I am La Esperita, known to you at once as Firebird, bringing you hope from God." And so I didn't know what the hell was going on, so I clicked back to the last issue, and apparently he was just about to commit suicide. I don't know why, though. Do you know why?
He just feels like he's a loser, and he failed as a superhero, and he's got nothing going on in his life, and he's like, "I'm a failure, I'm a loser," and he put the gun to his head. But yeah, that's crazy, like in a kid's book, that Hank Pym had a gun to his temple in the previous book. Like, that would never fly today, right?
In fact, they wouldn't even put that in a Marvel movie, you know? That's how, like, taboo that is. But anyway.
That is crazy. So, yeah. Yep. Anyway, are you familiar with this Firebird lady?
Only from seeing pictures of her. And, I mean, I did technically read this years ago, but I just don't remember anything about it.
Yeah, I guess she was a team member briefly, or a reserve team member or something in later issues. But she's like what's the word? A Latin American lady?
Yeah.
Latina,
yes.
And, but she's wearing like how would you describe this costume?
Oh, well.
Yeah. It's like,
I mean, I guess now that I know that, because I skimmed through the last issue, and she's actually trying to convert him to Christianity, right? So I think what she's wearing is some form of, it almost looks like religious garb. Like she has a little cross around her neck.
Like religious robes. It's like a white flowing robe trimmed in gold, and she has like gold sleeves on her arms. And then she has like a red winged cape sort of situation.
Right.
And she also has a large gold cross around her neck with the religious symbolism.
Right.
So all right, so then we see the Avengers flipping back through time, and that's interspliced again with then we get to the full scene of Firebird talking to Hank Pym. And Michael, look at like the second and fourth panels of Firebird's face, one close up from the front and one from the side view there in the second row of panels. Clearly like Jack Kirby, right? Like
100%, you're right.
So that's Joe Sinnott like inking the shit out of that, right?
Yeah. Actually, I do have to point out that even you know the panel on the right where they show Hank Pym reacting to Ultron?
Yeah.
That is an exact recreation of the original panel. So I'm thinking that Al Milgrom just completely swiped it, you know?
Interesting.
So, yeah. But anyway, and so basically Firebird is trying to convince him not to kill himself, right?
Yeah. She's like, "Hey, don't worry. You're not a loser. You're pretty good." He's like, "I failed as a superhero 4 different ways or something."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But she's like, you just didn't do it right. Didn't do it right. I did it 4 different ways, because he was like Goliath and Giant Man or whatever.
Yeah, Giant Man, Goliath, Ant-Man, Yellow Jacket. And then she's like, "You must try to be a hero as you are." And he's like, "What? The amazing lab man?" Because at this point he has no superhero identity. It's kind of funny.
Now later on, he comes through for him here in this adventure here, and he of course helps save the day. But later on, he gets a costume where he's just wearing like a blue suit, kind of like the Question, and then he has a scarf like Doctor Who, and that's
really. I thought he had like costume. A red like lab suit, didn't he?
Maybe eventually, but like I saw promotional images for the West Coast Avengers and stuff, and it's just him in a suit with a fedora and a scarf. And I was like, "Who's that guy?" And I was like, "Oh wait, that's Hank Pym."
Huh?
Hank Pym, that's weird. But anyway, he's an amazing lab guy. But she convinces him to not murder himself. So
he throws down the gun
because and softly at first, Henry Pym begins to sob, begins to live.
Mm-hmm.
How dramatic! Yeah.
So then we cut over to the West Coast Avengers hurtling through this vortex, and then they land in the past. And it's funny because I didn't notice this, but they kind of. Are they like landing on this white square, or are they coming out of the white square? I don't know. Or is that part of the machine?
I think that's part of the machine, maybe. I don't know. It's kind of
But
weird.
again, bad art because there's two like tumbleweeds in the foreground, but they're not drawn over top of it. They're almost drawn like under it. It's really bad.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. So anyway,
we got to read this panel.
What?
Because wait a minute. Because Mockingbird is freaking out. All right.
Right.
And she's like, yes, when this could be prehistory, this could be any time. There's no way to tell in this desert. S.H.I.E.L.D. trained me in hard science, Clint, not time travel. So she's losing her mind.
Right.
So Hawkeye, being the loving husband that he is, or they're married at this point, right?
Yeah, they're married. Yeah.
He says, "Easy, Bobby, easy. This is just as logical as your lab work." So then he retells how they got there for the readers. All right. So he fills in the exposition.
Yeah,
go ahead,
so
Michael. Take the exposition. This?
So basically, remember, we didn't know what we were facing when Iron Man tracked Sunstroke Butte, I guess?
Butte. Like Butte. Like
okay, Butte. Okay. Yeah. And those other guys to their Arizona.
Yep, the other guys are Cactus, and he's just a tall cactus with arms and legs and fingers. And Gila, like a Gila monster. And then that's Dominus over there in the left there.
Okay. Yeah. Wow, these are awesome.
I know, these are like the worst supervillains ever.
Yeah, ever. But he's like, yeah, but once we found their boss, that alien spy called Dominus, things got a lot clearer. The guy found Doc Doom's old time machine, the one I used when I went to the Old West, and he just turned it on us, is all.
Yeah, but Michael, look, it looks like that white triangle or rectangle thing is like going down across their bodies. So.
Yes. It kind of like, it's almost like in Superman 2 when the circles around them. Well, it's kind of like that. And then, you know what I mean? Okay, anyway. So then we cut back. So then he finishes up and he's like, oh, no, then Bobby's like, oh, thank you, honey. I understand everything now.
It's like, what? So wait, Mockingbird, you're just a moron? Like, you were literally there when all this happened, and you just don't. It's so terrible.
Well, but then her thought bubble, maybe when I've been an Avenger as long as he has, I'll think a story like that is logical, but I doubt it. Oh, man. Remember, boxes and boxes of Steve Englehart comics. Anyway.
That is one of the best moments that we've encountered in all these comic books that we've done.
Yep, it's up there.
Mockingbird just realizing, oh, when you explain it like that, honey, thanks. I'm an idiot.
So then, I love how Iron Man's like, oh, time machine, I can work this thing. He's like, so let me have a look at the controls. Sure, there's the temporal displacer, the VBL link. I'm like, what the fuck is he talking about? What is a VBL link? Anyway, it's like a VCR. It's like, oh, here's the green cord, here's the yellow cord, you know.
The
anyway.
Johnson rod. Yeah, it's you'll figure it out. But Wonder Man, hey, look at Wonder Man there in this panel. He kind of looks, that's Superman right there, right? Like his face.
That's you could say that. Absolutely. Yep.
But Wonder Man, in his internal monologue there, he's getting jealous of Iron Man. He's like, he thinks he's the only scientist here. I'm also a scientist. I had no idea Wonder Man was
I didn't know that until I read the story.
I didn't know that
exactly. Right.
I thought he was a Hollywood actor goofball guy.
Right. He was like a stuntman or something, isn't he?
Well, he became an actor? He became a celebrity, like superstar actor, like a Tom Cruise kind of guy.
Okay.
Remember when he had like the red sunglasses and the little red coat?
Yes. Oh, another bad costume, eh? Jeez.
Yeah, I had no idea he was a scientist though, but he's getting jealous of Tony Stark, thinking he's Mr. Smarty Pants here, and he's a dope. But yeah, so we got all this internal conflict on the team. That's what you want in a team book, Michael. Internal conflict, you got to have.
Yep, we got it here. Yeah. And so then Iron Man, this is like an interesting little, twist, but Iron Man discovers that the machine can only go backward in time, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that is pretty good. There's one other great joke here by Steve Englehart. Oh no, then how will we ever get back to the future? Watch what you say, Bobby Bird. Michael J. Fox will sue you. That's Hawkeye talking there.
And then...
he's like, got to put a light touch on it for her, but this ain't good.
Anyway. So then Wonder Man's like, let me take a turn at it, So now he wants to take a shot at trying to fix this machine, right?
Yeah.
So then just at that moment, now we should point out that in a previous story, Hawkeye did travel to the past, to the Old West, and when he was there, he encountered a whole bunch of, Western-themed characters, right? Like, which we'll find out about in a minute. But coincidentally, they just happened to be riding by at this exact moment.
Yeah, they scream Yahoo!
Yeah.
And Hawkeye went back in time in the Avengers, not the West Coast.
Yeah, in the Avengers 142 to 143. So Iron Man, so the team flies over and they see Rawhide Kid, Two Gun Kid, and I love this dialogue. And the Knight Rider, or whatever he's called this week, wah, 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 because as we know, Knight Rider was formerly called, it was Phantom Rider. No, sorry, Ghost Rider, Phantom Rider. No, Ghost Rider, Knight Rider, then Phantom Rider. That's it.
No, just for clarification's sake, the Rawhide Kid is the redheaded guy, the red-haired guy with the white hat, right?
I think so.
And Two Gun Kid is the guy with like the blue mask and the blue hat and the white.
Yeah, the domino mask, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And so then, I guess technically at this point they didn't know what time they were in. So then Wonder Man's like, so we're in the Old West. We could have done a lot worse. So yeah, they didn't know where they were until this point. Yeah. So I guess these guys were chasing down some bad guys, right?
Yes. The Two Gun Kid, Rawhide Kid, and Knight Rider were they were chasing some varmints. What did these guys do though? I can't remember.
I don't know if they say what they did. I don't know. But not only are they shooting at them and punching them, the Rawhide Kid jumps in the air and does like a double kick and kicks two guys at the same time. That's hilarious.
Rawhide Kid's tough, man. And Two Gun Kid, crack, he's shooting their guns out of their hands and everything.
Yeah, he doesn't shoot the people. He shoots the guns out of their hands. It's cool.
Maxwell Smart always used to do that on Get Smart. I love it.
Okay.
And then Knight Rider, again, he's all white. He's like Moon Knight on a horse.
Yeah, right. He is nothing like the modern day Ghost Rider at all.
Yeah, and they're shooting at him, and the bullets are just going right through him.
Right. Yeah, and that's the other thing is I was under the impression that he's not actually supernatural, that it's just like
a gimmick.
It's all smoke and mirrors, but in this story it's implied that he actually is, so I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah, because I remember when you made us read that dopey Two Gun Kid book. Remember that?
Ooh, oh yeah.
For
that was my Halloween pick, Shocktober.
I couldn't remember what you called October. Yeah, Shocktober, Two Gun Kid. Back then, he was just a dude, but he had gimmicks. Like he had mirrors and machines or something, like hologram projectors or something.
Right.
That's yeah. So now he does feel like he's an actual phantom.
Right. Which is better, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. So they look over and they're like, hey, something's shining in the sky. So up until this point, they haven't seen the Avengers. They look over, hey, something's shining in the sky. It can't be. It is. It's the Avengers. So Two Gun Kid goes over and he like kind of hugs Hawkeye. And then Hawkeye's like, he adopts the dialect quickly. He's like, hey, we're pards, TJ or TG. Time and distance don't affect that. But look what's happened to me since then. We split the Avengers in two. And then he explains the whole story about how the West Coast Avengers and all that stuff.
And I married the mildly magnificent Mockingbird.
This dialogue, I tell you.
Why is she just mildly magnificent?
I know. I thought she was going to bust him on that, but she didn't.
Well, by the way, I forgot to mention this earlier when we talked about why this team formed. Do you remember why the West Coast Avengers were formed?
Actually, no, I don't.
Apparently, Vision was in charge of this at the time for whatever reason. And they were worried about the dire wraths. Remember the Rom villain? Yeah, the dire wraths. They were coming to Earth. And Vision thought, hey, we should really expand the Avengers' reach. So these dire wraths are coming. We need to prepare. So we should have someone over on the West Coast there, a team over there in case, to help fight these dire wraths. So that's why it happened. And then they put Hawkeye in charge of it. But yeah.
Oh, that's cool. So it is funny that he's leading Iron Man, but whatever. Yeah,
that is weird, right? Because you just assumed Iron Man would be the leader, especially nowadays after all the movies and everything. Well, why isn't Iron Man the leader? Yeah.
Right. So anyway, so then right away, like Tigra picks up on the fact that Phantom Rider or Knight Rider is like a ghost, but then Rawhide Kid or one of them is like, let's vamoose, Brett. Oh, these are the bad guys. Let's vamoose, Brett. The Mirages around here are getting fierce, so the bad guys take off. 1 second here, oops.
They're scared of the Avengers.
Right. And so then they're still chatting and catching up. And
Hey, we learn it's the year 1876.
Right. Yeah, and he gives an exact time, like, where does he say it? 3 years after your last visit, yeah, and 2 years after I came back. Because...
Yeah, because Two Gun Kid he stayed in the present day for a while, right?
Right. Yeah. And then this is where Wonder Man offers he's like, to go to try and fix the machine. He's like, I'll fly back to the machine there. And then
because he asked if there's a blacksmith in town.
Oh yes. Is there a blacksmith in Tombstone? Right.
Yeah.
Boom Boom Brown is his name.
Boom Boom Brown.
Right. And then so then Hawkeye, I love this. Go for it, Wendy. I love how they all have nicknames. Yeah. Actually, I don't love it. I think it's stupid, but whatever. So then he says to Two Gun Kid, he's like, but wait, what's your story, TG? You don't usually ride with a rawhide and the spook. And he's like, no, but those fellows who tried to rob the stage were part of a much larger group of owl hoots. And then this is where he lists all the bad guys that were on the cover. Iron Mask, Hurricane, that's the cowboy. Rattler, which is the snake guy, like you said. Red Raven, which is like the hawk guy. The big guy. Oh, then the Master of Magnetism, Dr. Danger.
And again, he's just carrying... He looks like the ringmaster a little bit. Like, remember the old ringmaster guy?
Yep.
With the big hat and the purple suit. But he's just holding a giant horseshoe magnet. A red magnet with the white tips, like a big horseshoe magnet.
Right, yep.
That's his superpower. A giant magnet.
Mm-hmm. I mean, here's the thing is, as supervillains from 1870s go, I'd rather see him and maybe Iron Mask and maybe the cowboy. But Red Raven and Rattler just look like 1985 supervillains,
Yeah, I hear you. I don't like them. They're my two least favorite of these guys. Also, the Fat Man's the last one, and he's like Louis Anderson with a boomerang.
Right, you're totally right. Yep.
That's exactly what he is.
Yep. Yeah. These guys are lame.
Think of the terrible villains in this book between like the first group we saw and that flashback with Cactus and Butte and Butte, whatever. And then these guys. Man, this book is something.
Yeah, it sure is. Anyway, I had every issue. Anyway, so then they decide... What do they decide here? I don't even remember.
Well, Wonder Man's going to fly the machine back to get to the blacksmith because they think he can make their parts they need with the blacksmith's help to fix the time machine. And Hawkeye and the rest of the Avengers say, hey, we're going to go with you, Two Gun Kid, and track down those owl hoots.
Right.
Those criminals.
Yeah, and as they're riding along, they're all talking and catching up and talking, right? And
yeah, well, it's weird because Tigra says, I'm going to ride with Rawhide Kid. He's cute. Mm-hmm. So she's very horny, this Tiger, all the time.
This is true.
Horny. And Hawkeye is like, hey, I'll ride with you, Two Gun Kid. And that means my hot wife, will ride with Knight Rider.
Yeah, which he will come to regret later.
I know. You might want to keep a, closer eye on their wife there. You know what I'm saying? But,
So then, so they're riding along, and he's not saying anything. He's not talking, and then she's like, "You're not shy, are you? Don't be. I may be from the future, but I'm flesh and blood myself. I'm no goddess or anything." And then he's like, "The Phantom of the Plains dwells amidst the supernatural mockingbird. I know a goddess when I see one." And she's like, "Whatever you say."
Yeah, she's a little what? But the first panel though, Mike, look, she's sitting like Knight Rider's in the saddle. And Mockingbird's in front of him.
Yeah.
With her bottom pressed up against him, And and then her dialogue is, you sure are quiet, Spook Man. I mean, I can feel your body inside that suit.
Yes, I noticed that line. Interesting.
Yeah, so he's aroused, is what I took from that. She could feel it.
Oh, Steve Englehart. Anyway, sneaking in some innuendos there. So then Wonder Man is flying with the time machine. He's like, crazy looking machine. Who'd ever have thought when Doom came up with it that someday it would seem antique? So he's flying over to see this blacksmith.
My favorite part, though, is he shows up looking like Wonder Man carrying a time machine. And he just says, hi there. You've got to be Boom Boom. The Two Gun Kid sent me to you. Partner, the way you flew in here, I got no reason to doubt you. What can I do for you? What?
Oh, this is insane. And
Boom Boom the blacksmith He has a giant like stove pipe hat on as well, and but he's a big muscular guy. Look how he's inked. Sinnott made him inked him from 1920s or something.
Yeah, well, because it's weird because I think he's trying to show that the what's it called, the molten metal is lighting up the front of him.
Yeah.
So he adds shadow to the back, but it doesn't work because there's a window right behind him.
Yeah, just the way it looks like very, very old comic inky.
Yeah, yeah,
but,
you could say that.
Anyway, but that's just so weird. Wonder Man just shows up. Oh, hey, partner. Yeah, what's going on?
Right. So then Iron Man is flying along, and then he's like, what? He sees something. There is something big and nearby.
Yeah, he's checking the heat. He has a heat sensor thing on his helmet.
Yes, that's right. Heat emissions. But we don't see what he sees yet. He just knows that there's something deep in the earth and it's moving.
But I like this, Michael, because this is 1986, and in order for him to detect heat readings in a desert, mind you, he pushes a button on his helmet, and little pink visor things go over the eye holes in his mask.
Yes.
Notice that? But now, these days, he's got all those fancy armors and whatnot in the movies where he's got all this technology. But back in those days, he had holes for his eyes in the metal. And, these little pink things had to slip down for him to have heat sensors.
I love it.
It's just, we're very old. Because you think how long, 39 years or whatever? How long has it been? Wait, what year is this? 22.
Well, this is 86 or 86. 14, I don't know, 86-ish?
36 years.
Yeah, geez. I gotta say though, I don't like the idea of Iron Man's suit the way it is now in the movies. How it all just goes on to him automatically. I like him physically taking it out and putting it on. Like a real suit of armor.
But it's so ridiculous because it's supposed to be armor, but it's folded up into a suitcase. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is ridiculous. That never worked for me.
I like the modern way.
Okay.
It's pretty cool. Like when he's falling out of a plane or something, he hits it and it goes on his body.
Pretty awesome. It's too easy. But anyway, that's a whole other discussion. But anyway, so then he's like, he's talking to himself. He's like, pardon me. He's like, I'll bet that among Two Gun, Rawhide, and the Knight Rider, someone will know the likely canyons to search. Jeez. I had some ginger pop and it's making me cough.
Ginger pop.
Ginger beer, actually. It's really good.
But yeah, Iron Man detected a heat sensor in these caverns, but he can't tell exactly where it is, but he figures, hey, so he waits for the others to show up, or he tells them, hey, this way, and then Two Gun Kid says, oh yeah, we'll go in this canyon here. That's probably where they're at. So, yeah.
Right. So then he flies back and rendezvous with the rest of the heroes, and here's a very awkwardly drawn scene. So they enter the mouth of a cave, and then in the very next panel, all of a sudden, behind them is not a cave entrance, but a gigantic, gaping, opening, plus another opening right next to it. So basically, it looks like a completely different location, right?
Yeah.
It's really badly done.
And it's basically the cover again, in a different perspective, in a way. The heroes coming at the villains, but it's a big panel with a bunch of characters in it. So,
yeah, 15 characters or something. But anyway, and they're like, destroy them all. So they start fighting. This is a mixture of those supervillains and the the regular cowboy guys. But now they're all fighting. Oh, just a minute here. And and Iron Man is what is he? Oh, he's shooting a rope, and he's trying to
no, he's not shooting a rope. Iron Man's going to go fight Red Raven, and the cowboys down below lasso him. They throw their lasso. What
happens? Okay.
Yeah, they lasso him, and because they think they can just tie him up like a calf.
Yes.
And he's like, I'm Iron Man, dummies. So he just grabs all their ropes and starts spinning them around and tying them up in their ropes.
Right. Yeah. And so this is a funny line. He's like, who says this? He goes, blah blah blah. He's like, I've been lassoed, but the sooner you all learn who you're up against, the sooner you'll know why they call me the Invincible Iron Man. Then the Red Raven guy says, holy, he's tangled them all up, all of them. And he's the wimpy member of our team. No, yeah, that's Hawkeye. Okay, he's just making fun of Iron Man. I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is funny.
And then Hawkeye's about to shoot he's shooting arrows to take out some cowboys and stuff. But then he's about to shoot another one. But
Master
Dr.
of
Danger,
Magnetism, yes.
Dr. Danger, the Master of Magnetism, he used his big horseshoe magnet to steal his arrows.
Right, and then Hawkeye looks over. He's like, he's got a horseshoe magnet, a simple horseshoe magnet. Magneto would laugh himself silly.
Then it's time for Louis Anderson, the fat man. He comes in with his boomerang, and he knocks Hawkeye's bow out of his hand. And then, but the two-gun kid just shoots Fat Man's boomerang to bits.
Right. And those guys are down for the count. And then the mask, what's the guy's name? Iron Mask?
First, the way they get down for the count, they're still standing there, and the Master of Magnetism guy, Dr. Danger, whatever the fuck his name is, he has the magnet, and he's drawing their guns from Two Gun Kid.
Oh, right, yes.
And Hawkeye, they're going to steal his other arrow, but Hawkeye says, "Oh yeah, take this arrow because it's a explosive arrow." You know.
Yes.
So and he like triggered it or whatever. So when he steals the arrow, it blows up and it knocks out Louis Anderson and Master of Magnetism.
Right.
There you go.
Right.
Now, Metal Mask or Iron Mask, whatever the fuck his name is, he grabs Mockingbird from behind and he's like going to kidnap her.
Mm-hmm. But then out of the darkness comes Phantom Rider / Knight Rider, right?
Yeah, and he saves her. Saves
the day. And then, hold on a sec here. And then we cut over to Tigra getting shot at by what's the bad guy's name?
Hurricane is the quick draw cowboy, and he's shooting at her feet and stuff, and she's jumping her out of the way. And then the Rattler, like the acrobat snake guy in the green costume, he jumps on Tigra, but she just carves him up and throws him into Hurricane, and she takes those two dudes out. I like how the Avengers are just making short work, easy work of these idiots. You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
Like, this is what you want. It's a squash match, you know?
Yeah.
In WWE talk.
Sure.
You don't give them any heat at all. Just take them out. So
yeah. Then Iron Man rips the wings off of Red Raven. He just falls right to the ground.
Yeah. Oh, here's my favorite part, though, Michael. So Metal Mask, Iron Mask, whatever the hell his name is, he's their leader. And so the Avengers think they won, but then he steps forth and he says, "Come forth, my secret weapon. Come forth. And who dares disturb the living totem?"
Oh, boy.
And it's like a giant totem pole with like cactus arms and legs looking like...
Yes.
And it's very tall, like, I don't know, 30 feet tall.
Something like that.
And he's just lumbering around after them, chasing them. And they're all terrified of the giant totem.
Right. And he's kind of talking in like a robotic voice, right? Like he has like the dashes in between each word. So I think the idea is supposed to be like, "I am slow, but I am inexorable. I am death."
He's undeniable. I am death.
Yeah.
I am.
So yeah, they're all fighting him. And then he grabs Iron Man and like Mockingbird kind of like trips him up. Then he falls back and smashes into the rocks there.
Yeah, because he's really tall and like thin, and he's got these stubby little legs, and so he's like top heavy. So Mockingbird puts her staff between his legs and trips him.
Right.
And he falls.
And also, and Iron Man points out that this is what he actually picked up on with his heat sensors earlier, his infrared eyes or whatever they're called. So then after this, once he smashes into the like mountain, they just bury him under all these rocks, right? So now he's covered up.
Yeah, Iron Man shoots some lasers or whatever and brings down some mountain rocks on him.
Yep. And then we cut over to the Two Gun Kid and Rawhide Kid bringing these bad guys to the cops, right? Or to the sheriff or whatever he is.
Yeah, the sheriff. Yeah.
And then we cut over to Wonder Man, who's with whatever his name is, Blackburn
Boom Boom.
Smith.
Boom Boom the Blacksmith.
Boom Boom. That's actually a good name, and it was used later in X Factor, but anyway. So then basically he's like, "Oh, Wonder Man's like, I tried everything I could think of, and Boom Boom was the best assistant a man could ask for. But part of the problem is broken transistors, and there's no way we could make those in this time." So Iron Man offers to give some from his armor. And he's like, "No, yours are the wrong kind. I wish they weren't, believe me." So now they're like, "Oh crap, what are we going to do?"
But again, don't you think Tony Stark would realize he had the wrong kind of transistors?
I know. That's just like forced writing, right?
Yeah.
Like forced not conflict, but you know what I mean. They're just trying to throw Wonder Man a bone to give him something to do here.
But I think they're also trying to close up any potential loopholes. Like readers could say, why wouldn't they just use Iron Man's suit?
Yeah.
And they're like,
true.
well, we got to make sure we get that in there somewhere. Oh, they're the wrong kind. Oh, okay.
Right. So anyway, so then Wonder Man comes up with a cool idea. He's like, I think we should just go back in time even further. And then Hawkeye's like, what? Huh? So he comes up with this idea that if they just go back in time to ancient Egypt where Ramatut is, they know that he can time travel because the Fantastic Four fought him in FF number 20. And they know that he has a time machine. So then he's like, here's my plan. If we go all the way back to ancient Egypt, we could get the reformed Ramatut to fix our machine and send us home because he was reformed after he fought himself as Immortus. Or sorry, no, Kang.
Yeah, this is
guy.
We did this Avengers Annual here.
That's right.
Giant Size number 2 or whatever. Remember, it was the Kang story where he was back in Egypt and Immortus and all that shit. So yeah, it's very confusing. But basically, that Ramatut guy was an early version of Kang, right, or something like that.
Yeah, they're all the same person in different timelines.
Yeah. So that is a pretty good idea, though. That hey, we're going to go even farther back in time and hope for the best.
It's a smart idea. And then this is the funny part. Then Wonder Man's like, okay, I'll set the dial to take us back 100 years first, just to make sure I can control it before we try 50 centuries. Like, they could go 5 minutes, right?
Yeah, like, why does it matter?
Let's just go 100 years. Make it even worse.
Yeah.
So then he's like, here we go. The energy should build up more gently than when Dominus blindsided us, but we're on our way. So then they stand on that little platform thing. But then Knight Rider, Phantom Rider, is like, no! And he does what any loving, person would do. He punches Mockingbird in the face.
Yes, he just punches her right in the face. Just a right cross right to the mouth.
Yeah, and then he throws her on his horse and takes off. And then he starts to ride away with her, and Hawkeye is like reaching out to her, but the other Avengers are stopping him. And he's like, let me go. And then Wonder Man's like, it's too late. The energy flux would tear you apart. He's like, don't care. Don't. And then he just fades out. And I love how Two Gun Kid, or whatever his name is like, Rawhide, we have to get Mockingbird back for Hawkeye. It's just kind of funny because in a story that's already derided for how it treats Mockingbird, it's just funny that line of dialogue. We don't have to get Mockingbird back for her own sake. We have to get her back for Hawkeye. It's just funny.
Yeah. She belongs to Hawkeye.
Yeah.
But even if we do, she'll still be here, and he'll be who knows where. This is bad trouble, Two Gun. Real bad. And then we see the Avengers going through time again, and Hawkeye screaming, Bobby! And then it says next, whatever next means. We told you time was getting frazzled, but wait till you see the Avengers in the 18th century, Mocky and the Cowboys in the 19th century, and Hank and Esperita in the 20th. Lost in Space-Time, Part 3, Behind the Times. It's next issue.
Yeah.
So yeah, just to recap, the Avengers were about to teleport away through time, and Knight Rider punches Mockingbird in the face and kidnaps her.
Yeah. Now, before we say anything, are you familiar with the story that's coming?
Like you mean in the subsequent issues?
Well, like the infamous incident with Phantom Rider and Mockingbird.
Well, yeah, you can explain it if you want. But yeah, that's why I read ahead. I flipped ahead to the rest of the story.
And it's funny because it's not explicit, but he gives her a love potion, and then she falls in love with him, and they become a couple. So they show her like naked, basically. So they imply that they've had sex.
Yeah, like she's changing her clothes, and she's holding up a dress. But yeah, they're together like a couple, as a man and a woman. Yep.
Right, and so. Once she snaps out of it, she freaks out and
the way they snap her out of it though is a Two Gun Kid and the Rawhide Kid and everything. I forget which. I think Two Gun Kid. He dresses up as a Hawkeye, like a Hawkeye costume, and like they like attack her kind of to try and get her because she started to come out of it because she found one of Hawkeye's arrowheads.
Right,
and she's like, "What is this? This looks familiar." And she wore it as a necklace. And then Two Gun Kid, and they had this plan where they'll dress up. They created this Hawkeye-like costume, as close as they could get in the 1876. And so that jogged her memory, and it snapped her out if she remembered Hawkeye. And then she's like, wait a minute. This Knight Rider fella, he kidnapped me. He punched me in the face, first of all. Then he kidnapped me. He drugged me. he's essentially been raping me every night, for as long as I've been here. And I'm very upset about this. Yes. So she has a big confrontation with Knight Rider. And what happens then, Michael?
They're like near like a ledge of like, like a mountainous, whatever range. And
a cliff.
It's called a cliff. And she basically like kind of like knocks him over, and then he's holding on to the ledge, and she's begging him, or he's begging her to help him, and then she refuses and just lets him fall to his death.
Yeah, she doesn't step on his hands or anything. She basically just stands there watching him as he's struggling, and he eventually falls, and she just lets him fall to his death. So then, when the Avengers, they figure out, how to get back in time, and so they come back to 1876, and she's reunited with Hawkeye and everything, and she's like, "Hey, Hawkeye," and he's like, "Hey, Mockingbird, what happened to Knight Rider?" And she says he killed himself.
Right.
And he's like, "Yeah, that seems about right. That guy would kill himself because he's a creep or whatever." Mm-hmm. And so that's how the story ends. We never hear from. No. It actually there's a postscript to this, because do you know what happens then, Micah? Later on down the road.
You mean like 25 years down the road, or do you mean like a year down the road?
I think more recently, like during the pages of West Coast Avengers. Like
okay.
Maybe 10 issues.
Well, yeah. Hawkeye basically they got into this big fight.
Do you remember why they had the big fight?
Yeah, it was because, what was it? Was he just accusing? Well, because he was pissed off because she murdered him, right?
Knight Rider, the ghost of Knight Rider.
Oh, yes.
He came and he visited Hawkeye, and he said, "Hey, your wife, remember that wife of yours who I punched in the face, kidnapped, and raped? She let me die. She could have saved me, and she didn't. She let me die." So Hawkeye's like, loving wife who was punched in the face, kidnapped, and raped, you let your rapist die, I don't like you anymore.
Right.
Because he says, you're an Avenger, you can't let people die.
Right, ridiculous.
Now listen, maybe you can understand that moral high ground and taking that stand if she looks like Rosie O'Donnell or something. That's Mockingbird. Come on. What are you doing?
No comment. But
you got to cut her some slack,
Yeah.
It's Mockingbird.
But it is ridiculous. Yeah, it is ridiculous. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. But I do have to tell you that I discovered that later on they retconned the story. Have you heard about this?
I did not hear about that.
Yes. Mockingbird had her own miniseries. I think it was in like the 2000s or the 2010s. And in the miniseries, in the very last issue, Ghost Rider's ghost comes back again.
And he says, just kidding.
No, like what happens is somehow you find out that, okay, this is crazy. What we read in Avengers number whatever 23 was Hawkeye's like not misinterpretation, but that's Hawkeye's version of what happened. Apparently, she willingly got married to him and had sex with him and cheated on him, and Hawkeye kind of like told himself that she was drugged and raped to kind of like make himself feel better that she didn't cheat on him. Isn't that insane?
That's crazy.
I know, it's insane.
Well, because it can't even be Hawkeye's version of the story, because when we're hearing these details about her getting mad, like Hawkeye wasn't there. We're seeing things where Hawkeye wasn't even involved.
It doesn't make any sense.
But yeah, that's interesting though.
Yeah.
She's just she figured, I'm stuck here in 1876. I might as well make the best of it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's just to give her agency so that, she willingly cheated on him. But it's just one of those things where it would have been better to just never mention it again,
Yes, just pretend it never happened. So the fallout of this is, of course, Mockingbird is very upset with Hawkeye that he would take this stance with her. That, hey,
right.
I was punched in the face, kidnapped, and raped, and whatever. So she said, "All right, I'm leaving." So she left the West Coast Avengers, and I think she started something else with what were they called? The Wackos or something? You remember this?
No.
The nickname for the West Coast Avengers, they called themselves the Wackos.
Right.
So I think she started something else with like two other people, and I can't remember who they were.
Really?
Yeah, it wasn't like a series or anything, but it was like what she went off and did. And then Hawkeye would eventually leave the West Coast Avengers because of U.S. agent and all that. But then somehow they ended up working together then to find the Great Lakes Avengers, from what I read. So I don't know. But yeah. But did they ever get back together then, like as a couple?
That's the thing. To be honest, I don't know. But I was kind of surprised that they broke up this early, like, you know, in Marvel history, because I kind of forgot about it. So I don't know.
Yeah, that is rough. That storyline's just weird, man.
Very weird. Very.
I don't know what's going on. Marvel had some terrible stories.
I mean, this was also within only a few years of Hank Pym beating Wasp, like smacking her across the face, right?
Also, Jim Shooter and
yep.
Was that Ms. Marvel or who was that?
That was Hank Pym smacking Wasp.
No, but then Jim Shooter had a storyline
where Ms. Marvel basically got raped by an alien, right?
It was the same situation, basically.
Right.
An alien.
Yep.
Good Lord.
Well, that's the thing is, I mean, Marvel was big, but they were not owned by a big corporation, so it was kind of like a free-for-all, you know?
Yeah, this was pre-Disney and all that, yeah. So, so it was like the Wild Wild West with 100%. Fat Man and Rattler and Red Raven and all this.
Yep.
So there it is. West Coast Avengers 18, Lost in Time. What do you think, Michael?
Ooh, there's some really bad dialogue. There's some terrible art.
There's some good art. I like some of the art. I think some of it's pretty good though.
But okay, let's put it this way: the pencils themselves are very bad. The inking is what saves it.
Yes,
100%.
the Joe Sinnott inking definitely saves it.
So, like, I would give these pencils like a 1.
I don't know. That's harsh.
And then the inking, I give like a 9 or 10, so it averages out to like a 5. And then the writing, oh my god, I don't know. Like for entertainment, it's very entertaining, but the actual writing is not good. There's a few good things in the plot, though.
Yeah, like the having to go back in time even farther is good.
That's smart.
Also, I don't think it's not done in this issue, but at some point there, in one of the later issues, there's a bit where Hawkeye leaves a note in the desert in a book buried in 1876 before they go back in time.
Okay.
And like then they find it in the present day, and like that Firebird lady gives it to Hank Pym and says, "Look at this," and it's a note from Hawkeye saying, "We went back in time."
That's cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. Like the way that. So, yeah, it's weird. The writing is terrible in terms of like the character, like the dialogue and the characters. It's just awful, man. It's laughably bad. And but man, we got some great like what the fuck moments in this book, though.
Right.
Mockingbird needing explained what happened. Like,
that's just brutal. Yeah, that's terrible. Terrible writing.
And then Knight Rider just punching her in the face.
I know.
Kidnapping.
Yeah, no self-awareness there, yeah. Oof.
Oh, so good. Wonder Man just showing up with a time machine at the blacksmith's. Oh, hey, partner, what can I do for you?
That's bad. Like, the only credit I'll give this comic is that I guess the word is naivete. Like, it's just...
the giant totem, Michael. The giant totem. That guy was great.
Yeah, well... Like, Steve Englehart believes in himself. Like, he believes in what he's doing. Like, he's not looking down on it, so I'll give him the credit for that, you know? But it's just not great.
Yeah, all right. So this book is terrible, but it's terrible fun.
Yes.
So I'll give it a thumbs up. Like, I'm giving it a 6.
I'll give it a 5 because it is readable and it is fun, but it's not good.
Yeah, it's not good. But it is, there's that fine line between being bad, terrible, and being bad fun, and this is bad fun. So,
I agree. All
right. So there it is, West Coast Avengers. Man, that is something.
All right.
Try to beat that, Michael.
Okay, well, once again, I like to please my co-hosts, so I'm going to pick a Marvel comic.
Hey, I like Marvel. Yeah.
And I can't believe that in all this time we haven't done this character. I mean, then again, he was only around for 10 issues. But we are going to do...
Wait.
Take
Can
a
I guess? Is it Omega Man?
Close. I think you just have the name wrong.
Omega, or what's his name?
Omega the Unknown.
Omega the Unknown. I said Omega Man. Yeah. Omega the
Unknown number 2.
I could go.
The reason I picked number 2 is because it's not number 1, but also because it has the Hulk. So there's a little bit of familiarity there.
Mega the Unknown. This was written by
Steve Gerber.
Yeah, Steve Gerber. Who's the artist here?
And also co-written by Mary Screens, I believe. And the artist is Jim Mooney, who I like.
Jim Mooney. I'm sure we've discussed him before. I can't remember why. Who's Mary Screens? Because that sounds familiar as well. Was that Gerber's late? His girlfriend?
I don't know if they were together, but she's actually. I'll talk about this next week, but no one on Earth knows the original ending of the series except for her. And he's unfortunately passed away now, so no one knows how the story's supposed to end.
Yeah, I'm thinking, I don't know if they were a couple, but like, wasn't she like his writing partner or something?
Maybe, yeah, I'm not sure.
But, because I remember encountering her name when I think we were researching Gerber for like the Howard the Duck book we did or something.
Yeah, she might have been involved with that. I'm actually looking her up right now, but, well, we can find out next week, I guess.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next week.
There you go.
I also think she may have been, I'm thinking back to when we did the She-Hulk and Ms. Marvel, and like remember when Marvel was trying to do like women's books or
okay. Oh, she might have been involved. Yes, that's right.
I think there were like 4 books that they pitched, and I think she was one of the writers who was given a shot to pitch a book or something, or maybe she pitched like the first version of She-Hulk or something like that. Is coming back to my mind. But anyway, we'll talk about it next week.
Yes.
All right.
It's gonna be fun.
So Omega the Unknown issue 2.
That's right. Be sure to join us next week and every week on Flea Market Fantasy. We review Bronze Age comics every week. Sometimes I pick, sometimes Mike Dell picks. We go from 1970 to 1989. So yeah, there you go. You can find every episode on www.comicbooksyndicate.com. And until next Tuesday, Right.